pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have the agenda here. Looking for motion to approve.
Motion approved. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Carried. Okay, next is the 2026 budget.
For the sake of initiating conversation to adopt the final budget as presented by the supervisor.
Is there a second? Second. Okay, now discussion. The spreadsheet you've got in front of you, all the changes are highlighted in yellow. You'll see that on page 2, the unexpended balance use has come down just a little bit.
On what page, Mike?
On page 2.
I'm sorry. Okay.
You'll see that under legislative board contractual expenses, the expense has gone up, and the same underneath the supervisor contractual expenses. That is because we have to send the new board members to training, and the training is no longer offered in Henrietta. We have to send them to Corning. So that's 3 nights and the training and mileage for those 2. The deputy supervisor services line, that's an appointment. I did go ahead and reduce that. The auditing expense, A1320.4, that 14,750 is what was quoted by Allied. All right, and that's the 12 for the something for the audit plus the court piece. The 2 have to be done.
So it's $20,000 out of the previous budget.
Yeah. And then on page 3, you'll see that the municipal, or the unallocated insurance line, A1910.4, we finally got the insurance numbers back, and we were able to reduce that by $12,000. Okay, moving on to page 5. Page 5 in the B fund, the contingency line has been increased from 5,000 to 24,000.
No, 34?
The printed one you've got that I just handed out should say 24.
Page 5. Yeah, page 5. Why did it go up so much work?
So it'll be up to the next board what to do with the contingency money. But if indeed the village does come up with the ambulance contract and whatever the bill for it to give to the board, then there would be money there to pay it.
Well, if I could jump in, at the library meeting, they were willing, because they say they're tight on money, they were willing, they paid what, 24 already? Or 25? Did they pay? Yeah, so
Yeah, the past insurance sale for.
Right, so the insurance piece, that's...
they paid 24, right? They got 25 to pay, and they were willing to, if they could pay 23.
So let's hold this off until we get to the library.
Okay.
So that is the refund piece.
Okay.
No changes in DA, no changes in DB. Special districts, so we only have the 3 fire districts to levy both the ambulance services contract and the fire services contract against. Those are both per contract.
Okay, so where'd you go here on this?
11.
Stick to 11. So right now, that coincides with what you had on our other sheet here, 124,219.
Yes.
I know we have talked over the last year. I thought we were ramping the fire department up over 3 years. There was a set amount.
There's a 3-year contract. 2026 is the third year for each of those contracts,
Okay,
and that number is per the contract.
but was there 25,000 that was so-called promised or dedicated to the fire department this year?
So at the last meeting, Steve, we approved the contracts for the salt and the park maintenance.
Yeah.
Those both together give the village at least $24,000 worth of budget relief that they can then apply to the fire department. So that money is buried in DA.
So where exactly is that? And it would be nice if it was spelled out 100%, that's all. 'Cause even like when I asked, it gets confusing, travel expense for the library, and it ended up being its heating and cooling. So I get it, but but where is that in there again, Mike?
So under DB, it's in the salt area. So you
Under the highway,
under highway on DB.
DB, okay.
So you'd be looking at page 9. So DB 5142.4.
Snow removal, contractual.
There's money in there for that, to pay the salt bill, which then the village can turn around and not pay the salt bill and push the money in the fire department.
And then I got a question on that. We had an agreement there before now it looks like we're gonna have a salt shed. Do we need to reverse that with the village, our agreement on the salt, what we were gonna do? I mean, we're gonna have storage now for our own salt, aren't we not?
Well, I thought Sean said he's gonna use his budget, his budget's to okay for the salt shed, the temporary salt shed.
Yeah.
We are, that's the salt shed, but I thought, didn't we put forth a resolution to work with the village about buying salt and giving them the salt for using their shed?
That resolution was just to cover the fire department. That's the only reason I was there.
Okay. So out of DB 5142.4, you're saying there is 25,000 out of that 48 that should go earmarked for the fire department.
Correct. The other piece of it is in B on page 5.
So there wasn't a full 25,000 in it.
Yeah.
We only had, I think,
12.
So there's 12 in that line?
Correct.
Okay. And the other one, Mike, is?
B 7110.4 on page 5.
Parks contractual?
Correct.
Like, even with the ambulance and that, why is it not spelled right out, a line item dictating where they're earmarking where that money goes?
Because we own neither the fire department nor the ambulance.
But yeah, I understand that, but
All
could
we
it be?
have is, we have 3 fire districts that we can pull money for, but the check goes to the village.
Shouldn't it be labeled maybe village fire department or village ambulance, and then we can at least prove to the public that that's what we want?
We went round and round with this. I would much prefer to have the tax bill say fire ambulance.
Right.
The tax bill says fire
Right.
on it. The ambulance money's buried inside. They will allow us to put a footnote on there that says a certain portion of this line is for the ambulance. But in order for us to have a separate line there, the ambulance company would actually have to form a new district.
Yeah, right.
And so we don't have, it just isn't gonna happen.
But the big thing with it is the town is doing the right thing, depending on what the village does, and depending on what the perception is with the public. Look, we all went through all this nonsense. I mean, you got the rate because of,
Part of it's because we're in the middle of a contract on each of those things, right? So we have an approved contract for 3 years for fire, for ambulance, and budgetarily, you're not supposed to direct more funds than what you previously budgeted for or contracted for. So that's, but you're right, that the message.
but the public don't see that, and people
Well, right.
hate things here, and the board,
But Ron, at the end of the day, all we can do as a town is have a contract for services. Because we don't own the ambulance, we don't own
Right,
the
right.
No, all we can have, we contract for services. Who do we contract with? We contract with the village.
right,
Okay, the village is the one that's providing those fire trucks and buildings and people and everything to provide this. Okay? They have to have discussions with those entities about properly funding those entities, okay? If we provide a way to free up some money for them, to spend more money on those things, why wouldn't they do that?
right.
Okay? If the contract needs to be renegotiated next year, which it will be, because we got a board and it'll have to be, then there'll be a whole other conversation about how much that should be funded.
Right.
And then it will be.
But my
in
thing
the
is,
fire district fund.
and I'm just saying, it should be spelled out so that it looks, in whatever money the village gets, it should go towards those two entities.
It's in our contract.
Right, it's in the contract. We don't have the ability to force the village to spend the money
Right.
in any way.
I understand.
Remember that all of the village districts are contemporaneous, right? All the same borders, all the same benefited group of users. And that's how the village is able to move money between the general budget and the water district and the sewer district and the fire district and all that without penalty. We can't do that, right? We can't move A to B and all those other things, but the village can. And so we've had a contract, we're finishing the second year now, and prior to that, we were also making those contributions. But the contract for ambulance services is exactly for that. We've had it for years, it's for ambulance services. The money has been spent on the building, so that's the village's choice.
Right, right. No, I understand all that, it's just that what just happened with the public here.
Well, a lot of things are being distorted.
Right.
If you read the law, and what the law says about what our responsibility is, we contract for services.
And we come.
We contract for services. That's what we
Right.
did. So we did what the law allows us to do.
So again, Mike, you'll have to excuse me, on the parks contractual, on the B7, that whole 10,000 will be dedicated to the fire department, or a portion of that also?
Well, it doesn't, I think we gotta clarify, it goes to the village, right? The village, what the village does with it, whether they give it to the fire department or not.
Okay, all right.
So,
Only because I don't want you to think that,
Steve, let me give you the background. So, in the past, the distant past, we would be billed for all the mowing time,
Right.
all of the benefits for the people doing the mowing, any other stuff at the park, and we appropriated so many $1,000s a year to pay our portion of doing it.
Which is supposed to be half, correct? It's a
It's
50/50.
supposed to be half. And
Yes.
so we did that, but over the years, the billing stopped. And we haven't been paying for that. So this, the contract that we sent over to the village was, we'll simply give you $10,000 and you send an invoice down the hall for it in April, and there it is. It saves the clerk there from having to do the billing and keep track of all that stuff. They would actually get the money, and because they've not been appropriating it, their budget can then use it this year for the fire department. The balance of the $24,000 ask is the regular contract. We do the increase this year. So the fire department should be whole.
So there should be either somewhere between $22,000 to $25,000 more for the fire department.
Correct. So with all of that, next year, the contract is up. The last year is 26. So the next board is going to have to negotiate with the village board about the ambulance services contract and the fire contract, and then they can, they're going to do what they're going to do.
Gotcha. All right. Another question that I have that's come up, what are we doing with Charlie's salary? Where,
So that's in B. Right, we pay the code enforcement officer out of B.
right?
What number's that?
And you can see it's in B 8010.1.
Oh,
Contractual?
So it says code enforcement officer services,
just a few up about it.
8010.1.
51,486.
And is that half or his whole salary?
No, that's the whole thing. So he's the town's employee.
Right,
And so we budget for his salary, benefits, retirement, all of that. And then we invoice the village for half.
okay. Are we still going to invoice the village for half of that then?
We are.
Okay? Because there's obviously some volley of comments back and forth on that, and just wanted to make it clear if that was going to be the agreement going forward, or where we stand with that.
So we have an agreement with the village. It has not been killed off. In order for the village to relinquish code enforcement services, what I had believed to be the case was that they would send me a letter, I would put a letter with it, send it off to the Department of State to let them know. I would ask for an assistance visit to restructure the program. That is not exactly the case. I can't handle the village's letter and send it. The village has to send me a letter to the Department of State and basically get permission to relinquish it to us. So when they do that, then, the town board will have to deal with it. They've not done it yet, and so we have to operate on the assumption that things will go forward.
So at least for 2026, which we're looking at right now,
Yep.
Charlie's services will be paid 50/50 at
Correct.
this point. All right.
Okay. Right, so now we're going to go to page 12, which is the library. And Ron, you said that they had something that they wanted to,
Yeah, so they said they've already paid for 24. They will pay for 25.
no, we've already invoiced them and received payment for 25.
Yep, okay.
So we didn't do 24.
Okay, that's what they told me.
Right, so we invoiced them for
Okay.
2025, the year that we're in.
Okay,
We got the payment.
Okay.
And then our agreement amongst the board here the last time was that we're going to divide up the rest and spread it out over 5 years, which I believe is $4,600 annually, which would have to be added into the system, which I did. So,
they were asking me if they couldn't pay for 24 then, they paid for 25, pay for 24, and they wanted to only pay for half of 23, and I said, well, it's been figured out to spread it out over 5 years.
Right.
But I go, I'll run it by it.
It's $4,600 a year, and it's already structured into the thing there. So what you see there on page 13, where it's highlighted in yellow, is you see the tentatively 5,000, we added the 4,600, and then the final insurance bill came in, and it was an additional $87 to make that work right. But otherwise, I didn't change their budget at all.
So there's a back charge of $27,000. And so we're giving them 5 years to pay. So far, they've paid 1 year.
Well, no, they paid the year we're in.
Yeah.
The rest of them going backward are divided out.
So how many more years are there paying something?
5.
5 million.
So they were talking about maybe making, I thought they said they paid 24, that's what I wrote down. But they paid 25, so they're gonna pay, I thought they said they were gonna pay another year this year.
If that's what they're thinking of doing, we don't have any visibility of invoicing it. It'll just go into their unrestricted fund balance.
Okay.
And then we'll be able to go ahead and bill them
Draw out of that.
9687. We'll send them an invoice, they'll send us a check so that everything's traceable. And that's it.
So that 16,000 that's labeled travel, that's under there.
So the 16,000 is utilities.
That's utilities.
It's their utility.
But isn't that, they were thinking it was to do with the charging station, because there was $5,000 in this one that was listed as utilities in this budget. There was $5,000 in there listed for utilities, and this, it still said travel, 16,000.
Then there's a mistake in that.
I think. I'm going by memory now.
The travel's only $310.
Yeah, it's not much in travel, because it's just a little bit of mileage.
Sure.
They don't do any real big stuff.
But that number was pumped up to cover the cost of electricity from the station. Right. Because it has to be paid for. So whatever electricity is used to charge somebody's car at the library, it's going to be anything billed to the library for electricity.
But don't the person have to pay for that charging? What?
So they do, but that shows up in a different part of the budget. So that comes back on the annual.
So the town gets it, they pay for it.
Right, and since we don't have any track record there, we don't know what's going to generate.
First off, I don't understand how the flood charging station go to anyway.
Well, so you're going to have one that'll be capable of charging a Tesla.
Yep.
And you're going to have a couple smaller ones,
Slower
and
ones.
then a slower one.
Well, the other thing they did bring up is, when they buried, they dug and buried the lines for those charging stations at this point.
I don't think they've commenced construction.
Because they were talking about, one of them, I don't know if it was for the streetlights back there, that should be marked. So they don't try to find it like.
What they're going to be doing is they're going to be bringing out an additional conduit with a box that we will be able to connect corner lights to on the park.
Right.
That is the least costly solution for doing all of this. So
They were just concerned about having someone there that could flag it. So,
finding the box in between the 4 charging stations,
okay.
I
I don't know. I don't know what to do. But, and then they were concerned about the tree that they had.
Which we're gonna take care of.
Right. Sean's got that.
All right, that's it.
So next, Mike, another contingency line, A 1990.4 of 2,000, that is earmarked for what?
You're talking back on which page, Steve?
I'm sorry, page 3, A 1990.4, $2,000.
Right, and that is just a contingency line. Contingency generally is not earmarked for anything.
And so it could be dipped into,
Right, and generally,
Something here in the
during
building
year,
or-
if something goes over a few dollars, it can be moved out of there.
all right.
But usually it's $2,000.
And I was just trying to look back on my original copy here, where there were two lines, on attorney, one on the A
And one on B.
and one on B, for a total of 65,190. Did that stay the same, or where are we on that?
Those did not move at all. They're still there. We're still having to pay more than one attorney because of the union negotiations.
Right, and as we talked, Ron brought up, hopefully it's maybe 2 or 3 meetings away, hopefully, from doing. It's a guess right now, right, Jim, or?
Yeah, it seems that typically the first 10 or 12 months, things don't move a whole lot,
This is stuff.
and then people get worn out and all that getting done, so I expect you're gonna see it
Right
right
after
about
the first of the year, we should.
You know, it's hard to say, right? I mean, we can only control one side of it, which is what you're willing to do from a negotiation standpoint,
Right.
so.
And as far on the revenue lines, do we know for sure, hang on, I'll find it. $10,000, it'll stick out at you here. Well, the subject is, our marijuana business coming to town. Where do we stand with that? And right here, I had make a note, progress on the opening night. Right now, you had, I believe, you didn't change that, $10,000 on A 111.6.
Right. That did not change, and they have just opened.
They did.
Yeah, they're open.
Okay, and I know,
We don't have any track record.
I realize that, but again, if you could just kind of update us again. I know we went over it once, but the process, does the money go to the county and then we get it? Because I know they were looking to set up a so-called czar to handle all this in the county, and how do we end up getting that 10 grand?
So that piece kind of stalled as far as the odds are. They did it in Steuben County, and they've done it in some other counties, but it's not on the Livingston radar right now. It is 13% sales tax on marijuana sales.
Okay.
All of it is collected by New York State, just like anybody pays their sales tax. The state keeps 9%. 4% is sent to Livingston County. Livingston County keeps 1% of that, and 3% comes to the town. And I did check with the comptroller's office before we added the line. It does go into the A budget.
Okay. And I understand that's best guess right now.
It's just a guess. We no way to know how much.
So maybe we all start smoking and doing pot here, and then we'll really increase the numbers for our town. You know, it'd be a great thing for Lima. Yep.
I'd be better off just don't get the money.
Okay, so we covered the fire, and like you said, as far as ambulance, that it's in there on a contingency line, $24,000. Yes, that question was answered, you believe?
I do have a question for the $12,000 coming out of that salt budget. Does that have to be tracked in any sort of way, like the village make the order and then we just pay the bill, or we just order it as the highway department and then just be like, hey, Ben, this is actually your salt, and
Right now, it's just the village giving us the invoice and us sending them a check.
okay. And then on the salt side of things, basically, just
To balance the pages, all you're going to see is some levies on the different water districts. We do owe the village for checking on the transmission main, we've done that out for over years. So water districts 2 and 4 have money that they're taking in. Water district 3, the fund balance is like $6 million. It's getting to the point where, we've already had some repairs there, but they need to build their fund balance, so there's a little bit of money that's vested into. Water District 1 is the only one that is in a good position.
Now that water, obviously it's not on here because it's, till,
You should see 5 in there. It's
5 is in
just
there?
empty. There's no,
okay.
we don't assess anything on it till 5.
Okay, I see you do have it on the last page. So again, besides the debt service money that's coming back in, you said we are gonna recoup Jim's time for the water district?
November 25th is the official closing on the bond anticipation note, which is $700,000. That $700,000 will be used first to pay back the A fund and the B fund for all expenditures from the very beginning of discussion of the water district fund.
Okay,
So legal fees, engineering fees, copy fees, interpreters, publication, everything. They came up with a very exhaustive list to reimburse. So A fund and B fund will both be getting a chunk of money. I think somewhere total around 200,000.
Something like
so, 200,000 in fees coming back to the town.
Out of that
Out of the
$700,000 bond
700.
anticipation note,
And where will that money go? Where,
that. Back from whence it came.
it'll go into the A fund and the B fund.
So it will be divided between A and B depending on.
it
the
will be
expense.
divided?
Yep.
Okay.
And we have a list on a spreadsheet of where the expenditures were paid out of, and dollar for dollar, it should be put back into those respective funds.
Okay.
But it'll just end up in an unexpended fund balance, basically, unless there's something else that we're paying.
Okay.
Right, so you're gonna see your fund balance go up on both A and B as a result of that. Then the $700,000 bond anticipation note would be wrapped into the USDA financing, that which wasn't covered by the grant dollars, and will be an expenditure of the district, so it's part of that debt service charge ultimately that everybody in the district will be paying.
Just the one thing, I got a question on this. When did it change that the transmission line going up 5 and 20 went from nobody hooking to it to people can hook to it if they choose?
That's always been the case. They can choose, but they don't deal with the water district for us. They actually have to deal directly with the water authority. The water authority will then assess charges and remit the money back to the water district.
You're talking about the future situation?
So,
Because if the line up there right now on the west side of town, there's no pressure for people.
No, the future.
The future one will, right.
you're right, I said that the other night.
But I was always under the impression that no one could hook to that because it was a transmission line until the other night.
Oh, no, they can hook to it, just like you can on hydrants.
What's there now is theoretically an emergency transmission
Right.
line.
Right, very low pressure.
Yeah.
So for the sake of the public, so they know, if, let's say, 10 more people hook up, will that actually lower that $668 a year debt service? Okay. Because people are gonna ask, and so,
Yeah, it's done a little bit differently, so if there's development built District 5 customers, it's easy to see. It's a little bit different when they're gonna be customers of the authority, but they're gonna collect a debt charge that they'll remit to the district.
I mean, it'll make some difference in the grand scheme of things over 38 years. Let's say it could lower $30 to $50 a year.
The more
Maybe.
those EDUs go up, the less that debt service is for
Right.
everybody.
Yeah, there are more customers, more service, lower
Because the debt
cost.
service stays consistent.
Correct.
We
That
know,
is out there.
once we do the long-term borrowing, we know how much it's gonna be every year until it's paid off.
Yeah, it just changes the slice in the pie.
That's
That's
right.
all it's doing.
Yeah, there's a few more people paying.
Any place there's a transmission line,
Yeah.
that we have control on, we can get new customers. They're just not in the water.
What about if the developer could they then hook to that line and service a multitude of homes?
They can only with permission, and when that happens, they usually negotiate a debt service component, so, and if there's infrastructure that needs to be connected, sometimes there's charges for that, you know, pressure reducing, pumps, whatever it might be that allows you to do so.
They typically pay them. You guys want to work with the two-foot trail. That developer paid for all water.
And for the district formation.
And the formation, and all that other stuff.
Is Browning hooked up there?
Bromley was part of Water District 3, so the developer paid for all the stuff on Bromley Road. But the other district users had to pay for the pipe for their house. All right, so if you skip then to the last few pages, where they're 1 and 2, that gives you the breakdown percentage-wise of where we are. The document as presented there is a 4.95% tax increase.
Quick question, if I could. Mike, did you pull for the assistant supervisor, did you say you pulled that $2,000 back out for next year's budget? Is that what you
I
said?
dropped it to 500.
500, okay. Okay, got it right there. Yep, deputy super, okay.
Priorities, let's see.
Well, I just want to make sure I'm understanding the talk here.
Well, it's priorities, it's what where people want.
It is, and that's great.
So, the budget is presented on a $300,000 house. Town-wide is about $3 increase. Outside of the village, it's about a $54 increase.
Based on 300,000.
Based on $300,000.
Okay.
Yeah, average new home, whatever, is
Oh, I was gonna, you can't build anything for a quarter anymore, a million, all the way. Well, you could, but you'd be up there like they used to call Caledonia, it'd be Shantytown.
Okay, other things, Ron? Steve?
No, I think I had a bunch of stuff highlighted. I think you covered pretty much. The only thing I will ask as long as I had it, on the mortgage tax, I see that was quite a big drop from 2025 from 80 to 48.
Yep.
That stayed.
Yeah, it had to, but we're not seeing the sale of the larger items here, so.
There's not a whole lot of refinancing going on either. Because the rates have been high.
And any cash sales.
And maybe for Sean or Mike, and then under sidewalk, 6,000, that is that still, are we still looking going north here with the sidewalk? Is that part of it, or?
I know we wanna do that crosswalk down there by the trailer park.
That's just money for that. We were doing, we used to appropriate 14 grand. The reality is the highway crew only had enough time to do about 10,000 bucks for the sidewalk. The 6 grand comes over to them.
In Lighthouse, is he okay?
Didn't he finally come around? I thought
The
he said-
second one,
Yeah, so he agreed, as I understand it, when Sean talked to him, to an easement based on a revised map. Before, we had about 410 feet of sidewalk easement. He really doesn't want that. He wants it just to the south of the entrance to the trailer park, where his property starts. He's willing to allow a piece of sidewalk there to essentially where the crosswalk heads west across 15A.
to
So,
Dollar General over that way.
right, so what we're doing right now is Clark Patterson is coming up with a revised map, but they had to check and make sure that it would be ADA compliant, because it's a little bit different than what was originally planned. So I think this might have been the original version that they looked at for where the crosswalk was located, but they had some struggles with DOT and ADA compliance, so they moved it, but now they're looking to see, so I talked to them yesterday, and I should have an answer hopefully next week.
Mike, under DA 9060.8, could that change to wherever we end up with the union? That is medical insurance, and I understand that Jen falls under that too, but could that change depending on where that negotiation comes in, you or Jim? Any?
Possible. Yeah, so the hospital, medical, dental, et cetera, yeah, that can change. Remember, we're on a October to September plan right now, so it could, but there's a lot of pieces in the air, including the Tompkins County Healthcare Consortium. If we do end up moving the town into that, it takes almost a third out of our cost with the same plans we've got right now.
And on the DA side, Sean, you got in there 10 for sale of equipment. Is that kind of penciling in the six-wheeler?
yeah.
Kind of figure where we're gonna be with that. And really shouldn't be looking at anything else we're really selling next year, equipment-wise.
Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
Good?
Good? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Carried. Okay. At this time, if there's any member of the public who would like to make comments, then,
Pop up and sign up. And there.
otherwise, seeing none, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Enjoy the rest of your birthday.
Thank you.
It's his birthday.
I get paid extra for being in here on this.
Oh, really? That is awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
My appreciation.